It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And it's your Real Estate Breakfast back for the weekend. Yes, breaking down for you the Australian property market. I can't believe that we are more than halfway through the month of Jan already. It is such a write-off month, isn't it, January? And many of you will be heading back to work on Monday. That is going to be hard, no doubt about it. Got to recalibrate your mind and spirit. You got to will yourself almost back into work mode. Not always easy. And then there's going to be some of you that have retired at the end of last year. That is a completely different sort of recalibration. Fortunately, I'll never retire because I work in creative industries, but those working in physical jobs like being a builder and then retiring, that must be such a great feeling getting off those tools. So if you have already retired, maybe you're still listening to the podcast, good luck with all of that. It is a Saturday, January the 17th. Muhammad Ali would have been celebrating a birthday today. If you're celebrating a birthday, many happy returns. Actually, on the world stage, it was on this day back in 1991, Operation Desert Storm began. And here in Australia, it's the birthday of Steve Waugh and AFL icon Nathan Buckley. So happy birthday to you. A question here, is 2026 shaping up to be a year where preparation matters more than prediction? Rather than trying to time the market, smart buyers are learning how to move within it strategically and confidently. Now, whether you're buying your first home, upgrading or investing, how you buy in 2026 matters just as much as what you buy. And joining us for the very first time this year is Anthony Landau from Equilibria Finance. Good morning to you, Anthony. Welcome back onto the Real Estate Breakfast. Great to have you back. How did you spend your break? That's got to be the first question. And 2025 finished at a pretty intense pace. How did the year wrap up from your side of the fence?
Yeah, good morning, Craig, and everybody out there. It's fantastic to be back, and yeah, great to have had a nice 3-week break. As usual, I enjoy going up the north coast of New South Wales for some rest and recreation. And to your point, 2025 finished up at a very intense pace. It felt like we were running until about the 23rd or 24th of December, wrapping a lot of stuff up. The market ended strong. National growth was at 8.6%. Sydney grew at 5.8% as at the end of last year, supply remaining a key issue. And we left last year with uncertainty around interest rates. There was a big shift in sentiment in the last couple of months. That's where we kick off 2026, relaxed, refreshed and ready to go.
Yeah, you talk about the rates. At the moment, there's still plenty of uncertainty around rates and affordability. What should buyers from your vantage point realistically be preparing and prepping for this year?
Yeah, look, there was a big shift in sentiment with the inflationary data at the end of last year that has now brought discussion around, will we in fact get an interest rate rise as early as February? Will there be 1 or 2 interest rate rises as distinct from interest rate drops in this calendar year? That very much shifts the thought process. That very much shifts the emotions of buyers. Notwithstanding that, affordability and supply are absolutely key issues that are going to shape the property market in 2026. This year, as you intimated out in your introduction, is preparation around your finance, preparation around understanding what you can afford, and preparation to act when the right property comes up. It's not about the frenzy. It's not about fear of missing out. It's not about trying to beat or time the market. It's about being ready to get into the market when the opportunity comes up.
Yeah, and rents are back at record highs across every Australian capital city except Melbourne. Sydney remains the most expensive, not any surprises there, while Brisbane is the only city seeing rental growth accelerate. According to Domain, most other markets are slowing as tenants hit clear affordability ceilings, and affordable rentals are almost a thing of the past. I think that's fair to say, and it's so important too for people to get rents that they can afford to have enough to save for that wretched deposit. How are you then helping your clients position themselves now so that they're ready to move when that right opportunity comes along?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's interesting just to touch on the rental market. We're seeing a shift in behaviour from a lot of people now because they're literally being priced out of the market. We're seeing young buyers move back in with parents. We're seeing existing family homes being converted to accommodate young families because they just cannot afford to rent or get in the market. And we're also seeing a lot more gifting and family guarantor loans to assist with building a deposit. So that rent is a real challenge with this supply shortage. The good news for renters is investors are back in the market. There was a late surge last year. We are seeing investors come back in. That will bring more stock onto the rental market over the next 12 months, I believe. In terms of our clients, it is all about understanding what you can do, what your budget will afford, preparing people for what they want to afford, and make sure they understand their repayments. A lot of our clients are shifting where they buy, what they buy, and even the purpose. Some are now feeling we cannot buy an owner-occupier property. We'll shift to buying an investment to get in the market in a good, strong area. So it's all about that preparation. I keep talking about the preparation around being ready to buy when the right property comes up. Have your finance in place. Know what you're trying to buy. Is it a home? Is it an investment property? Know the area you're trying to buy and be ready to act when that opportunity comes up.
Yes, preparation, that is the key of the game when it comes to real estate. And we are talking to Anthony Landau on our Saturday morning. We are back with more after this.
Every morning from 6 a.m, we bring you the latest real estate news with diverse perspectives from leading industry experts. We deliver the most property podcasts across Australia every week.
We were talking about their goals. They wanted to buy a house. They actually earned a really good income and they had a decent deposit, but they weren't making enough progress. And when we looked at their spending, they worked out they were spending about $400 a week on Uber for dinner, Uber Eats for dinner, and on coffees and buying their lunch, and they just weren't really cooking much. They were lucky to be cooking once or twice a week.
That's the neighbour you want to be invited for dinner by the sound of it. All right, let's have a look at the latest data on the fact that more than 1 in 3 Aussies no longer believe they'll ever afford a home. But it's a little bit sad, I feel, that, 1 in 3 Aussies don't believe that they'll be able to get into a home ever.
I agree. I think it's a real sign of the times that it's now not even something that people are delaying. It's just something that for a lot of Australians, they've come to the realization that buying a home is just probably not in their future. And I think it ties into that previous data we were talking about, that people are looking really hard at their situation and their future, and they're trying to shift their habits to try and make it more of a reality. But for a lot of people, for 1 in 3 Australians, they just don't think that that's ever going to be on the cards for them.
Get insider tips from industry professionals and level up your real estate game by unlocking the secrets of successful real estate transactions.
It is a Real Estate Saturday. Good morning to you. If you are looking at heading out the door today to look at property, good luck wherever that might lead you. The independence of the world's most powerful central bank is about to be tested. Next week, the US Supreme Court is going to hear arguments linked to Donald Trump's attempt. This is to remove the Federal Reserve Governor Jerome Powell. Now, it's a case that analysts say could open the door to targeting Powell. In response, global central bank leaders around the world, including Australia's Michelle Bullock, have publicly backed Powell, which is so important, warning that central bank independence underpins financial and economic stability. It's about to get really messy next week. Why? Because Trump doesn't like Powell. He wants him gone. So let's come back to you, Anthony, because interest rates, they are going to be on the agenda once again this year. Where they land is anybody's guess. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, interest rates are going to be one of the main factors influencing the property market this year. Probably the other main factors are going to be population growth and migration. Housing supply is a massive issue, and infrastructure and upgrades. People are looking at areas where lifestyle investments are outperforming. Back on rates, massive shift in sentiment last year where CPI got away from everybody again. It's back outside the RBA's target range of 2 to 3%. There was a slight easing in CPI in the last month's data. Notwithstanding that, most economists now are forecasting 1 or 2 interest rate rises this calendar year. Most banks are forecasting 1 or 2 interest rate rises this calendar year. There's a very strong argument the first rate rise should be in February to try and nip this CPI in the bud. I have a sense that the RBA may hold in February given the recent monthly data that did have a little bit of an easing, notwithstanding the fact the most recent quarterly data had both core inflation and the trim mean inflation outside of the target range. I do think we're going to see probably 2 rate rises over the next 12 months. It may be that it doesn't end up happening in February. Borrowers, buyers are factoring that now into their decision making. The conversations we're having, the conversations they're having are all about what do my repayments look like with 1 or 2 interest rate rises. Banks are already factoring it into fixed rates, and even the variable rate discounts we are getting are not as strong as they were 2 or 3 months ago.
What a start, to 2026. If we go back to August of last year, we were not talking about interest rises. We were talking about cuts. How quickly that has changed. And the other thing I just mentioned a couple of days ago about global events. One global shock, anybody's guess, everything's off the table then.
Yeah, I guess there's factors outside Australia that have an impact on our inflationary data on monetary policy. I think the main concern at the moment for the RBA is a lot of that CPI is domestically driven. So obviously if things happen externally that impact our economy, that will flow through to that decision making. I guess at the moment we can only really look at the data in front of us and what we can control. And a lot of that at the moment is driven by domestic factors, not overseas.
Fantastic stuff, Anthony. You enjoy your weekend and look forward to chatting again soon. Something tells me we are going to have a very, very busy year.
No doubt about that. We say that at the beginning of every year, and it never lets us down.
Explore new property destinations where you could live with exclusive interviews covering real estate news and market insights.
This cut shows that there's an increasing level of competitiveness between the lenders to try and grab that kind of borrower attention, because there's not a lot happening with interest rates. So we're seeing that Westpac cut. We're also seeing more incentives being offered on top of home loans, as well as just the interest rate.
And we want to touch on the potential house price forecast. This is into 2026, Graham.
It is indeed, Craig. We have the combined forecast from Westpac and ANZ at the moment. For 2026, it's interesting, we're seeing pretty house price forecasts that are larger than in 2025. So for Sydney, for example, we're seeing about 5% across the 2 banks, whereas they're kind of saying 7% for 2026. For Melbourne, we're seeing it go from 4 to quite a large 7% as well. So nearly double the forecast in Melbourne next year compared to this year. Also up in Perth and in Adelaide, not so much in Hobart and Brisbane for some reason, but generally pretty positive house price predictions from the big 2 banks for next year.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.